You're listening to RTI Audio, powered by Rocky Top Insider. This is Pancakes and Bacon with VFL, Kyler Kerbison, and Reed Bacon.
Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Pancakes and Bacon. Got another great one for you. Obviously no football happened for the Vols this weekend, but a lot of other games happened. A lot of news with the now final playoff rankings coming out, and the transfer portal kind of opened up too. So we're going to talk about all that stuff before we get into it. If you guys are watching, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. We'd love to see those. And if you're just listening, rate and review, download and re-download on all those listening platforms, and follow us on socials, all down in the link below. But yeah, let's jump into it. First, Reed, how we doing, bud?
Well, look who's back from partying hard. Big fella. The old big boy, We're a couple days past talking. We did talk a decent amount while you were on your drive to and from said bachelor party, but I'm excited. I'm legitimately fired up to be on here. We don't have a game, but there's a lot of stuff I'm excited to talk about and excited to see you. But yeah, how have you been?
Not too shabby, like you said. Bachelor party. It was fun. Drove up to Pittsburgh with a mutual friend of ours. And his whole group went to a Steelers game and went to the casino up there, which I'm not a big gambler, but still got to hang out with everybody, watch football, have a few brewskis, some good times.
Good. No, I'm happy. I'm happy about that. I know you had a good time, so that's awesome. Man, I'm ready to jump into this. I have a lot to say on a couple different things. I'm bad about this. I almost started just talking. I forgot to shout out Bacon Junk Removal.
That's right.
Anything helps. If you know of somebody that's needing some junk removal, some demolition, anything hauled, listen. I'll pretty much do anything that you want me to if you want to pay me some money.
You can pay me for whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just trying to. I've had a couple great jobs so far. I'm just getting the word out. I'm starting out. Anything helps. I would appreciate it more than you all know. I'm literally grassrootsing it. I mean, I'm doing cold calls where I go out and I stop at different businesses, drop off business cards. I'm hitting everybody in my neighborhood, trying to be on Instagram, Facebook. All those. So please reach out. It would mean more than you would know. And so anyways, back to start with the quote, Kyler.
Yeah.
It's the easiest quote to pick because when I heard it, I loved it. And I know you're going to love it. Anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Anytime, baby.
And I absolutely love that. I love Coach Heupel for many different reasons. But the fact that now granted, we got in, and I understand that some of these coaches have to do the politic, and I understand they have to get up there and say stuff, and I understand they have to go to bat for their guys. But fortunately, so far, and if there's something that's been out there that I've missed, I apologize. But Coach Hype doesn't get caught up in all this nonsense.
No.
Would he like to have a home game? Yeah, sure. Because guess what? I think if we're playing Ohio State in Neyland, I think we beat them. And I'm not super worried about it. I think it's a really good game, but the atmosphere is great. I think getting them down here, I think we beat them. And we can talk about all that when it comes. But this guy's just like, listen, I don't care. I'm not getting caught up in all this stuff. And that's the one thing that I've always loved about Coach Hype is it rarely, if any, he doesn't get caught up in the nonsense that we've had. Personally, Tennessee has had coaches in the past. Our rivals and other teams in the SEC have had coaches in the past that get caught up in all the nonsense. Our coach is about building a good, meaningful culture where he cares about the guys, where he wants to win football games, where he wants guys to graduate, make the money that they can. And I think he's genuine in all that. And so we're really lucky to have that. Now, obviously, we want to win games, and he does that too. So when this man said that, and I believe it in his heart, and some of it probably comes from the fact that as a player, like a lot of times as a player, if you're a true dog about it, like that's how you really feel, like anywhere, anytime. Like,
Yeah.
Anyways, I love that quote, and I'm going to jump into the whole thing about Heupel here in a minute, but I want you to react to that too.
No, I'm totally with you in the same. I love that quote from Heupel. That is the right attitude to have. You know, it's grasping at straws, a lot of the politicking that the coaches are doing, and it's very much like I could understand a, you know, one loss Penn State and, you know, one loss Ohio State if they're going back and forth on like who should be above the other. But it's just like once you get the second loss, hey, like, sorry, Ohio State, there is a reason that you're playing us first. And you want to know why? Because you lost to Michigan at home, a 500 team, your last game of the year. That is the reason why. There's not another reason for it. Hey, Ole Miss, you're not making it because you lost to Kentucky. You were one of their 4 wins on the season. Hey, Bama, you're not making it because you lost to Oklahoma by 21 points. There's obvious reasons of not making it or being in certain situations. I mean, I look at it and, you know, people are like, damn, they screwed Tennessee again. They gave them a bad draw playing Ohio State and then having to play Oregon afterwards if we win. And I'm like, well, if you would have beat Arkansas or would have beat Georgia, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're going to have to play some tough team in the last, you know, some part of this playoff at some point. So that's why it's just even more like if you don't have the mentality of anywhere, anytime, and you play, like, then you're not winning that game. Like, you're like, well, it's not the perfect situation for me. You know, the Penn State fans complain about 12 kickoffs. It's like, well, it's not the perfect situation. So we can't win the game if it's not the perfect situation. It's like, well, hold on. Like, where's our mentality at?
Yeah. That mentality is kind of a lot about how I felt and feel about our 2022 year. And this is one personal opinion, but like my thing was, we're the underdog. We got nothing to lose. Like, people didn't expect us to be here. Like, let's go do it. Mm-hmm. And I have that same feeling going into this playoffs where we're here. It's Nico's first year. You know, maybe we're a year early in some people's minds. Maybe I'll be a little bit more nervous next year and the year after that because it's like, oh, man, we really got the really good quarterback. We need to capitalize on this time. But for what Heupel's done, which I'm going to kind of go on a tangent here in a minute about that, but like for the playoffs, I love it. I love it. Like, only thing that I would have liked different is if we had him here, just because selfishly I want to go to the game.
Yeah.
But and I think we win, but I want to see how we compete on the road at Ohio State. And if we beat them, it'll mean that much more beating them up there than it would here in Knoxville.
For sure.
I want to go play Oregon. Why would you not want to go play Oregon and see them? So it's just
different. The Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it'd be sick. Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
I do too. And so I don't mind the draw. Like, what is it, Kyler? What does it ultimately matter? Besides, like, for recruiting, if we had gotten there and we play SMU first round, it's like, oh, yeah, we made it to the quarterfinals or the semifinals. Like, yeah, but you played SMU or you played everywhere else. And I get that you can pitch that and whatever, but I'm not the one doing pitching, recruiting, and doing all this stuff. The ultimate goal is a national championship. The other goal was to make it. We accomplished the number one goal. Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, is in the very first 12-team college playoff. I don't really consider the playoff when it was just 4 teams. I don't consider that. This is the first playoffs. Tennessee made it, and at some point, my opinion will change of like, well, we really need to capitalize. Maybe I really will look at the draws like I do for Rick Barnes and the coaching and the basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're in it. I'm happy to be in it, and let's go and punch somebody in the mouth and see what's up.
Yeah, I think there will be eventual like trickle down of, hey, you made the playoff, that's great, like good job. In the same way, like, hey, you made the tournament, that's great, good job. Or in the NFL, we're like, good job making the playoffs. But hey, great, like the Vikings made the playoffs, but no one's talking about the damn Vikings. They're talking about the Chiefs. They're talking about the Bills. They're talking about San Fran. Like talking about those upper echelon teams. So hey, yeah, you made it. Great. Penn State, guess what? Sorry, you're going to have to prove it. Yeah, you got the easy path. Okay? They say the easy path. But you still got to play an SMU who's won a lot of games. And then you got to play a Boise State who's won a lot of games, who has a Heisman finalist. So, and what's to say that Penn State is so much better than those teams? Nothing. Literally nothing. They've beaten up on a bunch of bad teams, and they've lost to the two teams that were good that they played.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree.
I'm just kind of sitting here like, okay, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to play who you got to play. I mean, I like the opportunity to go play Ohio State. I like if you're ever going to get Ohio State in the playoffs, might as well get them after an embarrassing loss to Michigan, where their coach is pretty much on the hot seat if he doesn't win a national championship. It's like, yeah, that's when I would want to play Ohio State.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would have loved to have played. I got my win against Clemson, I guess 2 years ago or a year or so ago. So I don't mind to play them. I don't really want to play Texas because of family. I don't really want to have to Bailey and I going at each other. But, we've played Georgia. I would love a rematch with Georgia at some point. But give me Penn State and Ohio State's ass or Notre Dame. I want to play those teams.
Yeah.
I want to play them. I want to – oh, my goodness. If we beat Ohio State –
I want to go up there while it's cold and punch him in the mouth.
I do too. That's exactly right.
Oh, well, it's going to be cold. You're going to be in a home game. Like, it gets cold down here too, asshole. Like,
exactly. So let me say this. The only other thing you can dive into the college football playoff as much as you want about, and I know you've kind of already hit on it, but which teams deserve to be in, which didn't, whatever else. The only thing I have to say about it is, do I think that an Ole Miss or an Alabama or even a South Carolina are going to be better than like an Indiana or an SMU or Boise State? Yeah, sure I do. But guess what? I'm a Tennessee fan, and I love that our team, our quote-unquote rivals and people we compete against aren't in it. I love that. Screw their fans. Screw their coaching staffs that don't get to pitch that they made the playoffs. I love it. So even though you can call me biased because I said the SEC is the best conference, because it is. All you have to do is look at the guys that leave the SEC, how many get drafted to the pros, how many national championships we've won. Granted, whether it's just been Alabama and Georgia, I still think from top to bottom, when these teams match up, when it matters, the SEC has proven, and I know that makes everyone else mad because they look at us and like, well, you're from the South, you get that. I'm like, well, no, just look at what's happened over the past 10 to 12, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And so, I know that they wanted to get Indiana in there and their little redheaded stepchild and all that. And like, I don't mind Indiana. I think it's a good story. I mean, let's see what they do. Notre Dame, I don't like Notre Dame. They basically don't get to play anybody, or they don't have to play anybody all year, and they lost to Northern Iowa. So I get it. There's so many arguments that can be made everywhere, but my biggest argument and point, and then I'll let you, if you have anything else to hit on this, is that I'm happy. I'm so happy. So happy Ole Miss didn't get in. I'm so happy Alabama didn't get in. I'm so happy South Carolina again. I love it. It doesn't mean that I still don't think that they would beat those other teams.
Yeah, and even if you do say that, like, hey, maybe I think Alabama would beat an SMU, or I think Alabama would beat an Indiana or a Clemson, it's like, okay, you can say that, but they did just lose to Oklahoma. So, like, Do you think Indiana is better than Oklahoma? Because I do. I mean, like, yeah, Indiana lost to Ohio State, but like, I think they're better than Oklahoma. I think SMU is, and I think Clemson is too. So, what's to say that they don't lose that game versus those teams? I mean,
Sure,
the
sure.
favorite, yeah, you can go by odds and stuff, but like, that's where I'm at is like at this point. That's why I love the 12-team playoff because now you're at this point where it's not a one-loss team getting in over an undefeated team like it was last year with Florida State and Alabama.
Right.
It is 3 losses versus 1 or 3 losses versus 2. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, now we're actually getting into the realm of like, hey, you shit down your leg the second to last game of the year. That's why you're not getting in.
I would pull for Indiana or SMU over Alabama. I would pull for those. I would probably say that it would be a close game and toss up. I would, if you still made me bet, I would maybe bet Bama, but Ole Miss and South Carolina, like I would probably pick those teams over Indiana. Yeah, I'm just saying if they were going to play, who would I pick to win? Like, yeah, I'd probably pick those teams over SMU and Indiana, and definitely Clemson. But I would be cheering for SMU and Indiana. I can promise you that. But I hear you. But I hear you, and I also agree with you, Kyler, that you don't want to just look at point spreads because there's upsets that happen every weekend. So I know Nick Saban tried to say that a couple of years ago. He's like, "Well, we'd be favored." It's like, yeah, you probably would be favored, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to win the game.
Yeah, and I look at it like this too when people are bringing up like your path to the semifinal, right? Like the path to the semifinal is easier for one team over the other. If it's the end of the year, would you rather be in a scenario where you're 10-0 and you're trying to get to the national championship or trying to get to a 4-team playoff? You're 10-0, and your last 2 regular season games, you have to play the number 11 seed SMU from the ACC, and then on your last game, you got to play the number 7 seed Boise State, and you have to win both of those games back-to-back weeks. Or you're 11-0, you got a bye week, and then you're playing Ohio State or Tennessee.
Yeah.
A 1-game thing. Like, I'm probably picking that one over 2 games, even though they are in like inferior opponents to Ohio State or Tennessee. It's like, I'm still probably picking the 1 over 2 with an extra week to prepare.
No, I feel you. I do think, side note, I feel you there, but side note, I think we could see some NFL style, the first, number 1 seed, AFC, NFC, they get the bye, they sit at home. Some wild card team comes out, wins that first game, gets a little momentum, and then they come. And you got to think about it. Tennessee's going to be off for 2 weeks. Damn, Oregon is 3 weeks, or no, because Oregon played this past weekend. But yeah, so they don't play this week. They don't play, 3 weeks. They'll be off for 3 weeks. That's a long time to just be practicing and not feel live shots, not feel live, like executing wise, like on the same rhythm. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if there's somebody comes a little sloppy because 3 weeks is a while.
And I do think that like they're going to have to adjust how they format this moving forward. Like, this is obviously the first year, so it's like you're kind of playing with stuff right now. But like just making it to where a Georgia or a Texas who made it to the SEC championship, a Georgia who won the SEC championship, is in the best spot. And there's not these spots like Boise or Arizona State, especially, where it's like, well, is Texas not more deserving of that, or Penn State or Ohio State not more deserving of that spot than Arizona State? I mean, I don't know. Like, I get like the weight of like, hey, I have a conference championship. But I think maybe expanding it to 14 and then having like 2 first-round buys. So it's like the top 2 teams get the first-round bye. It feels like it's like the top 2 conference champions, pretty much. But if you are a conference champion, you still get an automatic bid. You're just not put in at number 3 and number 4. You might get put in at a number 11 and 12, depending on like where your ranking is in the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, and that I think that'll change. Other people that pay attention to this way more than I do, they think it'll change too, and all that. Here's my deal that I kind of want to talk about Hypel. I'm going to make this quick. I'm not going to go into super detail, but I'm kind of done talking about the CFB. I've kind of said it. I'm happy with it. I'm excited to see Tennessee. I couldn't be more. But you and I, it just so happens that you and I started doing this podcast together basically right when Hypel was hired.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, matter of fact, you and I were having a conversation as I pulled into the hotel in Charleston, South Carolina. I was at work. You and I were talking about a bunch of different stuff regarding Tennessee and the coaching and everything that was happening. Then we find out that Hypel is the head coach. I'm literally foam rolling in this small gym in a hotel, and I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm like starting to look at his stuff. I'm like, all right, well, he's been really good at UCF. Then you hear, well, maybe it's Scott Frost's players. And at that point we had been burned, man. Like we had tried everything. Like we had Lane, we had Lane, Dooley, Butch, and Pruitt, and it just seemed like it never ended. And I'm like, well, you know what, man? Like this guy seems that he's been a head coach and won, which is nice because that's something Pruitt had never done, something that Dooley didn't have a winning record. Butch did have a winning record, and he was the best of them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, and I just got to the point. I said, you know what? Give this guy a chance, man. We don't know. I said, at least it looks like he's going to put up points and score offense. And then Kyler, you and I go to his first spring practice, and we talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I see what he's about to deal with. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is insane. And I know that we have a different perspective than other people just because you're a former player and we went to practice. So we can't fault other people for not seeing what we saw. But how bad it was, numbers-wise, with all the people that left, the lack of depth, the lack of talent, the lack of size, the lack of everything was brutal. I left that day, and not only what you and I talked about, but I left that day and talked to some of my close friends and my dad and my Uncle Lou, and I'm like, we got to give this guy 3, possibly 4 years before we can ever really judge him because of how bad things look. Now, granted, the scope of college football has changed, meaning with NIL and transfer portal that you can change that quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that at that point, but I still didn't know how he was going to do it. And I'll always go back to that first day you guys met. Scott introduced you guys, and you guys talked, and he said, we're going to be all right. We just got to get some dudes in here, but we're going to be all right. And I was like, okay, like, let's see it. And to fast forward from that moment to just the first game, I'm sitting on my porch at my first house, and I'm watching. I got COVID, can't go to the game, and I'm watching him against Pitt. And I'm sitting there like,
what the hell's going on?
I'm like, this guy is dialing it up. I mean, he's got guys running free. He's running speed options. He's got Pitt on. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's out here playing with a JV team against Kenny Pickett, a bunch of 5-year seniors at Pitt, and he's working them. And I'm like, if we had a quarterback that could hit it, we win that game. And I'm like, and I tweeted out, and I said, we got a coach. Like, we got a football coach. I don't know how good he's going to be, but he's going to be at least pretty good. And then you fast forward to 2022, which we all know what happened, and getting the big win against Bama and beating LSU. That is why I have always defended this guy and always felt like with my eyes, what I saw was it was first, he can really coach offense. Mm-hmm. The next thing was he can win big games. Now I'm seeing he can recruit, he can build a culture, he can get you to where you want to go. Now it's really just like, can we win an SEC or national championship, which is very difficult for anyone to do.
Yeah.
And you and I, we're not sunshine pumpers. We are very realistic about stuff. I mean, like, we'll watch a recruiting film and say, we don't know, we'll see. So we're not these over sunshine pumpers, but we trust what we see with our eyes. And that is why we have defended Heupel because, and I shouldn't say defend him, because there's nothing that he did really wrong. I mean, he's lost games, and it's ultimately his responsibility to get the guys to execute. But what this guy has done is truly freaking remarkable. And I'm like, I mean, I pulled it up just real quick. I mean, go 7-6 that first year with the team that we had and be in some of those games that we were in. Then he goes to 11-2. Then you go to 9-4. And this year we finished 10-2 and in the college football playoff. It's one of the most special things and one of the best things I've seen. And I just hope that people understand. And I think a lot of people do. I just think we unfortunately see the very quick reaction on social media. It's like, oh, he's terrible. He's this, he's that. And it's like, you got to let the man do an entire season, an entire body of work before you judge it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's a big thing nowadays is judging immediately on stuff. And his growth of this program from where he started has been crazy. I mean, just incredible what he's been able to do. And for him to build what he needs and build the program that he has, because in the recent transfer portal era, we saw coaches come into situations, have success immediately, and then fall off, i.e. Mel Tucker at Michigan State. Wins 11 games in that first season. He does gets all these transfer portal guys and then just falls off. They end up firing him. Michigan State falls off the map. And it was the same thing. Like after 2022, it's like, is this a outlier or is this an aberration? Like, is this what's going to happen with us every year or is this just something random? And I think with the moves he's made in the off seasons, transfer portal and recruiting wise, it kind of leans towards like, okay, he is building something. He is creating the foundation for this. Yeah, 2022 is great. He uses a transfer quarterback to do that. That year, he then goes and recruits the shit out of Nico and is like, I'm going to get this guy to come here next, and he's going to be my next dude. So it's like at the exact same time he's winning like we want him to, he's recruiting like we want him to. So it's just, I mean, everything that he's been able to accomplish where we are right now based off of where we were. I mean, this guy brought it back in this. I mean, the Tennessee athletic department is on absolute fire right now. Just absolute fire. I'm so glad we hired Danny White, the White Knight, coming in hot, getting us all the way back.
I just feel like, too, and I've said this a bunch, I just feel like, I like the fact that it seems real. Like, Heupel seems real. He doesn't seem like a Kiffin or like a Jimbo who's now been fired. It seems real. We might go get a lot of portal. We might go get our fair share of portal guys, but we're still going to recruit in high school. You know, you have the NIL stuff, but it's, hey, we're going to take care of some people that need to be taken care of. And they just don't, for example, a guy that I was necessarily wrong about, not because I wasn't wrong because I watched him and was like, I don't see it. I just didn't watch Temple. I just didn't watch him. That's not my job. But I made a comment on the podcast, like, I'm worried before the season started, like, I'm worried about the DBs. Like, I don't know. Like, we didn't go out and get Caleb Downs like Ohio State did from Alabama. But these coaches have routinely done this, and we're about to start talking about the transfer portal. You know, and a guy that's leaving, Jordan Matthews, who's entered the Detroit transfer portal. I loved his high school film. I remember talking with Spire and what they were doing to get him over LSU in Texas. And, like, he was a 4-star corner. You thought that he was going to come in and be a shutdown guy. But you and I watched, and we watched his film. Or we watched and we liked his film. Guess who's else film that we really, really liked and thought they were just as good, but we didn't know why Ricky was a 3-star? Ricky Gibson. And now, so it's like this coaching staff has done such a good job of seeing who they want, going after those guys. It might not be the highest caliber guys, but then once they get them here, they develop them. Meaning they didn't go get Caleb Downs. Maybe they tried. Maybe they couldn't get him. Maybe Ohio State paid more. But then they went, and I know they're different positions. One's a safety, one's a corner. But then they go and get a Jermon McCoy, who was a freshman All-American or whatever. And or Jermon McCoy is from Oregon State. I'm sorry, not Temple. Yeah. That's Jalen McMurray. So anyways, the point being is that they went and got Jermon McCoy and brought him in, and now he's one of the best corners in the league. So I just like that it seems real and that they're not just going and getting these guys who are a bunch of mercenaries where you can pay a bunch of money. And because at the end of the day, the NIL has maybe changed stuff, but football will never change. I don't care how much guys are getting paid. I don't care how much NIL or the NFL or whatever else. If you really want to win championships, it has to be a culture where guys fight for one another. They play as a team.
Mm-hmm.
They can make money and do it. You could pay Kyler Kerberson and Reed Bacon a lot of money to come to your school, but we're also going to buy in to the fact that we're here to win, and it's not just about, well, where am I going to go next year to get my next big check?
Yeah,
that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing that's been built. Okay, Kyler, what are your initial thoughts? Whether you want to talk about them as a group or
no, I mean my.
Sorry, I cut off.
My initial thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. My initial thoughts with anything with the transfer portal is like, okay, there's a reason that they're going into this. They're looking for something, whether that be playing time or money. I almost look at it as like these guys are feelers. They're putting out feelers. They're trying to see what they might like, because right now they can still come back. Like, it's not set in stone. Like, hey, I'm never coming back to Tennessee. No. Like, it's still, conversations are to be had. So guys who might not get as many reps are going to be the first ones to jump in. And I understand it in guys' positions like a Khalifa Keith, where it's like, hey, listen, you're already number 4 or number 5 running back right now. And that's with us not bringing in new freshmen, not bringing any transfers. If you don't think that you can compete and earn a position as a 1 or 2 guy, I get it. Go somewhere where you can compete, where you think. A guy like Vyson Lang, I'm sitting there like, you had 3 redshirt seniors ahead of you on the interior offensive line. They are all leaving. So in my eyes, these kind of scenarios don't make sense to me, where I'm like, it is the position is opening. There is an open position coming next year, okay, on a team that has a really good NIL collective that is also making it to the college football playoffs and is consistent in the top 10. What about that scenario would you not want to try and take advantage of? That's the part where I don't understand. Like, if I'm Vyson Lang, I'm sitting there going, all 3 interior positions are open next year. There's this NIL collective that we have. I can earn one of these 3 spots for sure and get a lot of playing time and get myself some money. I just feel like it's like if I put my name in the transfer portal, I'll get the $15,000 bonus like check when I sign at Ole Miss. You know what I mean? Like, it's the very temporary, hey, this is great for now, and not necessarily thinking about like what is the best setup, because guys could transfer to schools without even really realizing like, hey, this is bad, dude. They've got starters already there. There's no open position for you to play. You're going to have to beat somebody else out who's been there 2 years. Like, things like that, I don't necessarily get. Like, even with the wide receivers, Chaz and Caleb. Like, I'm like, guys, Brew's probably gone. Dante could probably leave. Squirrel might even leave. So I got 3 wide open positions, and you guys are the ones to step in. Like, Mike Matthews has been getting reps, but like, you guys are the ones that everyone is expecting to play a lot next year. That's where I'm like, what is it about that temporary bag that you might be getting? It's just so appetizing to these guys that they can't help themselves.
Yeah, I think, well, number one, before I talk about any of the players specifically, I think it's tough that if you're one of these 12 teams competing for a national championship, and I get it that the guys have to do it because if they don't do it during this time period, then they have to wait till spring. And if you know you're ready to go, you don't want to have to wait around and do all this practice and then spring practice and then mat drills and then all that. So I get it, but it's not like, for example, a Chaz and a Caleb, they haven't played a ton, but they've played. And what happens if we go to Ohio State and Squirrel goes down early or someone else goes early? Like, Chaz is going to play in a playoff game at Ohio State. And I don't want to knock him because I don't know anything about him personally. He could be a great teammate. It doesn't look great now that he's been a rotational guy and had some opportunities to play. Now, maybe he has been passed up on the depth chart, and we don't necessarily know it from the outside looking in. So maybe he really wouldn't play. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's the number one piece, is that it's just tough because you have a chance to go win a national championship and you're leaving now. So that I get both sides of it. I'm just saying the look is not great. Whatever. Okay. Vice and Lang, he's been here, and I hear you that, listen, these three are opening up. Are you going to be able to do something? But clearly he's seeing something that they're writing on the wall. Like, these guys have already passed me. Some of the younger guys have already passed me. I mean, whether it's William Satterfield or Max Anderson, who was playing center in that last game that we had, or the UTEP, I think it was a UTEP that we played for. Yeah. So like Jesse Perry was in there. Shamgod was in there. Like all these other dudes were in there. So maybe Vison's like, he looked at it as, I did work. And if I was second string now and had a chance to start, maybe. So I hear you, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. Maybe he already knows, like, I need to get somewhere.
Like, I'm 3 or 4 right now, so I know.
Right. So I need to go somewhere that I can get in spring and compete and try to start for, because because the one thing that we have to remember is, like, we truly don't know what all these guys are wanting. Like, do they want to win? Do they just want to play? Is it just money? Do they want to go somewhere else so they can hopefully go to the league? Is it a combination of all of them? Or is it a combination, a little bit of all of them? Probably. But the other thing that I heard too, which I don't get worked up about the transfer portal. Like, I really don't. I've talked about this before. I'm only going to be like a little upset if someone massive or special leaves. But then again, I'm always like, it's a two-way street. So if they leave, someone else better could come in. I think as you mentioned, you hit a good point, is you don't know who's reaching out to these guys. And it's like, hey, Chaz, this is Reed Bacon. I work with so-and-so agency. I've got a couple offers on the table that I would love to speak with you about, and I could represent you because Arkansas wants you to come home and can pay you this or whatever else, but you gotta leave now. So you never know what's being said to these guys, and their coaches could probably say something to them. They probably have some good, mature people in their life. But then again, they're still 18, 19, 20 years old. And then what if they don't have that mature adult figure in their life? Then they could absolutely leave. So, yeah, Khalif, I get it. No problem. Go to somewhere else so he can play. Bison Lang, I get it. He was a 3-star anyways. Looks like he's already gotten surpassed. Caleb Webb, I get it. He's a bigger guy, but he's been here. He's had plenty of opportunity, in my opinion, to make a name for himself. He didn't, so go somewhere else. Go play wide receiver. Like, that loss doesn't bother me at all. Chaz, I like Chaz. I thought he would have had a better year this year. But he had his opportunities too, Kyler. Like, we got to be honest. He had his opportunities to step in, make plays while guys were injured, and for whatever reason, for whatever reason, he didn't make the plays, and then the coaching staff didn't trust him enough to be in there in certain aspects when, Mike Matthews and other guys are getting the run. So it's like, I get it. Like, only one that is pretty damn surprising to me was Jalen Smith. And that's the one that when that happened, and I was actually on Xbox Live, and they're like, yeah, Jalen Smith's in the transfer portal. I was like, what the what? And not necessarily that I love him as a player, but the dude is a starter. He's a co-starter. He is a co-starter. He plays almost just as much as Arian Carter and T-Lander. Your team, you're a co-starter on a team that is in the college football playoff. I don't know how you leave, bro, at that point.
You're going to get plays. You're going to play in the college football playoff.
Crazy.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I was really like trying to make it make sense in my head. It was like, did they put Edwin Spillman ahead of him? Like, did they just go like, hey, sorry, but like this guy's just going to be ahead of you? Like moving forward, like I'm just like, where is this coming from? Because you've gotten the third most reps out of the linebackers this year. You've gotten so much play, and it's going to continue, and it like gives you a great starting point for next year.
I thought Caleb Perry, if any of the linebackers are going to leave, it had been Caleb Perry, who's been in the program. He rotates a lot too, but he doesn't play as much as Jalen. And they've been playing Caleb Perry when they were doing kind of the 3-4, and they would kind of put him as like an outside guy. But I was shocked. Another one that we haven't talked about, which I don't want to get off the topic of Jalen. We can go back to this, but like Jordan Matthews, I get it. Like the writing's on the wall for him. He hasn't played much. We're still young at corner. He's not moving inside because Boo's good. Christian Harrison's good. He's not going to start over Jamal McCoy. His own classmate, or his recruiting class, beat him out for that starting position. Like, I get it. Jordan's time's here. It's not going to work out here. He's got to go somewhere else. I totally get that one. So he's kind of in that same vein with those other ones I mentioned. But Jalen Smith, man, that's wild to me. Wild to me. And the other thing is, Kyler, I would love your opinion on this. I don't necessarily see him going somewhere else and getting a fat bag. It wasn't like he came in and was just incredible. I thought he was fine, but I thought he had a lot of growth to do. But it's like, where is he going to go that's necessarily going to be a better team or pay more than Tennessee? Yeah, I mean,
don't know. I really don't know if there's a team that would be like, all right, let me pull up your film and watch it and go, yeah, I'm going to throw you a fat bag to come here. I don't see any team that's on the same caliber as Tennessee. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can get one of these lower tier teams, that don't really have a chance and are like looking for a big name guy that, he came from Tennessee kind of thing. But you're not like, I don't think there's another SEC team who's like, damn, I really want that fourth string linebacker that Tennessee has.
I agree. I mean, he was better. Let me say this. He was better than Elijah Herring from what I saw. I'm not going to say he was a lot better, but he was better in the limited snaps that we saw because he really only played, this year, and it was
he played more linebacker than Elijah did. I mean,
it was rotational, but I mean, Elijah went to the University of Memphis.
Yeah.
Is Jalen, like you said, SEC schools, like is Jalen going to try to go to Vandy or Missouri or maybe out of the SEC? Like you want to go to Oklahoma State? Like I don't know, bro. And I get it. Listen, Aaron Carter or T-Lander are coming back another year. They're in your class. You guys were the three linebackers together. You got Edwin Spillman behind you. You got Jordan Burns, who they brought in. We haven't even looked at who they're bringing in this year, so I don't know. But it wasn't like you weren't playing and getting opportunity.
That's true.
So
I mean, he wants to be the number one guy. I don't know. I just see a lot of guys that are like, I want to be the number one guy, and I look at them and I'm like, are you watching film? Because you don't play like a number one guy. So I don't know why you think you're expected to be one.
Yeah.
And
the other thing is too, which we bring up, but we forgot to bring up before we start talking about this, is like I don't know what these coaches have told these dudes either. Like if they want them out because they want, listen, Kyler, I don't even think they want these players out because they want their scholarship. Maybe because they want their allotment of the salary cap. So I don't know. Maybe but I would be slightly shocked if I found that like the coaching staff was like, hey Jalen, like you can go on, knowing what they have to play for still. We're not going to the Outback Bowl.
Knowing they still got 4 more games to win a national championship.
And he was going to be playing in those. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. That was a weird one. But I'll be excited to see who they put in there now because someone's going to play.
Yeah, I think Spillman will play a lot more.
That's crazy too.
Freshman. True freshman getting thrown in their playoff games.
That's crazy.
I think that's just how it's gonna have to be. And then we'll keep up with the transfer portal as it comes. I do think they should change the signing day till after all football is done. Like Just put it after the national championship and
Wait,
leave it there.
early signing day?
Yeah.
No, I like it early. I don't have to worry about it.
I mean, it throws everything into an absolute like dumpster fire when it's early, because it also makes it to where the transfer portal opens early and just makes it like so chaotic before you're going to a playoff game. And I don't know. I'm just like, if you can make it after and make the transfer portal after, then it like gives a nice, like, here it is open, now it is closed. Kind of like that's the way I want it, like the NFL has with free agency. Now it is open, now it is closed.
Yeah. I hear you. I don't want them to change national sign today. I love being able to get those guys signed and get them in early. So I don't but I wouldn't mind changing the transfer portal. But I get it, because if you know you are done, so I'm fine. I'm fine if they just make it, hey, we're going to do one transfer portal, springtime or summertime. Let them do those two, but get away with the fall. And they just have to bite the bullet and be like, well, I know I'm leaving Tennessee, but I still got to go practice. I still got to go get ready for a bowl game or for the playoffs or whatever. So, but I do understand that they're like, hey, if these guys aren't going to be here next year, they got to go ahead and get to their next program. These coaches who are not in the playoff and are competing, I got to, all these dudes that are just worried about a bowl game, they're worried about the bowl game, but they're worried about getting their roster set for the next year. So that's the only reason I understand it for those players and those coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're more concerned about what's to come, not their bowl game right now.
Yeah. All right. Next week, we'll prep. We'll talk a little bit about Ohio State, and then we'll break down some recruiting film.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
It will be fun.
All right, brother. Great play.
Hey, man.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you are watching, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. If you're just listening, rate, review, download, re-download, follow us on all those listening platforms. Follow us on social media at Pancakes and Bacon. Our main account on Twitter at pancakesandbacon_RTI on Instagram. If you want to follow Reed, it's just at rbacon26 for him. It is at Kyler Kerberson for myself on all social medias. So check me out there, and just really appreciate you guys being the best fans in the world. As always, go Vols.